First item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Have we received any? There was one. Councillor Overton. That's all lovely. Councillor Gavashak as well. I think apologies, maybe. Any declarations of interest?
He said he's coming back.
He's coming back.
I see none. Public participation. We have an officer, so Kath can speak as and when needed on the agenda. Item 4, minutes to approve the minutes of the Recreation and Amenities Committee held on the 21st of November, which you can find on pages 5 and 6. Are there any comments, questions or amendments? I see none. I'll have to propose them from the chair as a seconded. All in favour? Thank you very much. Now move on to the progress report, which you'll find on page 7. Obviously, we're quite disappointed with how it's gone so far with the Maitland's Recreation Round, but they're waiting, weather permitting, to do some, testing around. It's been a bit flooded, hasn't it?
Yeah, they're waiting for the ground to firm up before they can bring flowers in.
Yeah. So until the ground firms up, we won't be able to bring the machinery to do the work on that. There's no further current update on the riverbank repairs. We're awaiting an install date on the steps into the river, and you can see the update on there at the bench playground. But there is one more update that isn't on progress, but is probably most relevant to hear on the agenda, and that's an update on the flooding situation down on our land. So, Carl, is there any possibility to just give us a brief little update on the management? Because I know already, even though it's only been mere days since the water was chest high on a large amount of our land, already the adventure playground's been open, the adventure golf has been reopened, and that is only possible because of a seriously large volume of work that our park services have done in the last few days to even make that possible. So yeah, if you could give us a bit of an update.
You pretty much said it all. We was we was underwater, and we've had a really good tidy up down there, and sort of disinfecting play equipment and pressure washing debris away from just the general clear up of anything left in the wake of the floods. The water's receded really well. I think we only really had a bit of electrical damage to the UV filter for the river on the adventure golf, and we've also lost a bench. So I think that's for all the flooding. I think we kind of got away a little bit light. So
sounds like it's fairly good going, actually.
Yeah.
Normally we expect a lot more damage, and there's always a cost to that, but thanks to you guys.
You've done a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
thank
you
you.
really have.
It's just so impressive to have it open, actually. Yeah, Councillor Kanda.
So I took part in a river clean-up on Saturday, organised by Lynn and Hen Mermaids, and I think the general point was, where's all the rubbish?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There wasn't any.
Obviously done a really good
Yeah.
clear-up team, so we ended up doing little picking on other bits, like the footpath between where the stream is, between the river road back to the station, and that's where a lot of our bin bags were full. So it wasn't flood-related victory, we just made the most of doing a gentle pick around. So yeah, just to say, we noticed it. There wasn't much there for us to pick up.
Oh, that's good to know. Thank you guys for coming out and doing the picking as well.
Great. Okay, so we'll now move on to the finances, item 6 on the agenda. You'll find these on pages 9 and 10. Are there any questions, any comments, anything anyone wants to raise at all on the budget items?
Propose we accept
Nancy,
that.
no? First, second. Happy with that? All in favour? Thank you very
Have a
much.
motion to have better weather next year.
Yeah, it does always help. It does always help the budget, definitely. Item 7 on the agenda is the Upper Marketplace parking space for the Henley Car Club. You can see a report on pages 11 to 13 from Nick. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. If there are any questions, Kath is here to answer.
Suppose accept, this is entirely sensible. Good use of our
Seconded.
funds.
Yeah, I would second that. I think it's very interesting. We've got 120 members. I was always very nervous about whether this would work when they first talked about it, but it's obviously a great success. So I think it's a no-brainer, really.
Well done to those involved.
Yeah.
Councillor Kendall.
Yeah, just for this car club, it's a really good way of producing a number of cars, like sharing cars. So it's a really good model of how what we do and how friends prices. So it's really focused a need, and I think if there's anything the Henry Plan has to do, continue to promote it, to widen its appeal, and to do it from a, back to, just to reduce the number of cars. People have to do
Absolutely, great. All in favour then? Thank you very much, that's unanimous. We're now on to agenda item 8, which is the marketplace use policy, which you'll find on pages 15 to 20. If you could have a review, you'll see that there's some red italic writing where there's changes been made. I'm sure everybody's noted those already. Are there any additions or any comments, queries about anything that's being proposed?
Are we
Councillor Jackson.
charging Thames Water for the use of that? Seems to be there quite a lot.
We should be. Actually, you say that, but I walked back from Chiltern Court through town on Christmas Day, and the Thames Water guy was there doing work. He was actually on the and he was putting something down it, and I said, "Why are you here on Christmas Day?" Took a picture of him and everything, and he said we have to check it every day. It doesn't stop for Christmas. So they have done their bit as well, and I'm by no means a Thames Water fan, believe me, and used to pay my bills because I look at their water quality. So I'm not their favourite person either. It's fine. Are we happy with the policy though? Are there any additions?
The
Any
amendment
queries?
is really to do
Councillor
with the
Dyer.
premises licence, isn't it?
So are we saying that there haven't been a premises license for the sale of alcohol? And that now they can stop? selling
Yeah.
alcohol? Has it consulted with, is it going to cause any disruption by alcohol?
Alcohol's been sold in the marketplace before. It's been sold by, say, like the gin stall that's there at the Mayfair, or Lovibon's at the Christmas festival, or yeah.
Well, there's always a mulled wine stand at the Lake Pride. So that's in the
Yeah, exactly.
Seems sensible.
Temporary event notice, yeah. Anything else?
It just means that instead of actually having the person who sold being licensed, the marketplace is not licensed, so
Yeah.
anybody can actually sell with permission.
Councillor Hunt?
Line comes is this the appropriate place to have a line on parking, making it clear that cars, motorbikes, vans should not be parked on the marketplace?
Well,
it should be
or
on-
lorries, as
is
I
it
was,
lorries?
as I
Or
was telling the
lorries.
lorry driver today.
Yes. Punch him in the nose.
I did not punch him in the nose, but I did say that this was the last time he should
Molested.
park there, and there was a,
Yes.
Graysmith car park was certainly closer to the pizza restaurant he was delivering to.
Could add that, but as an
Do you recommend, what, like, turn to town park?
We could add that into the section on the legal framework, just to clarify that it is still covered by the double yellow lines that cover the whole of marketplace, and therefore it is public highway, and we don't control the parking on them, and parking anywhere on the marketplace is still liable to result in a fixed penalty.
So the legal framework is points 4.1 to 4.8 in that paper.
You know, the way that there are things on the marketplace, and when you're moving in, and you can't just park in place road. You can.
There has to be there's always a little bit of compromise and leeway, but I think that it starts with a conversation at the town hall rather than just going and doing that.
Pretty sure that would
It is York stone and it is expensive to replace, so we do have to try and protect it where possible. And if something extremely heavy was going onto it, we'd find a way to protect the stone underneath, I'm sure. Okay, all happy with this? Do you need an official vote on that?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. All in favour? Thank you. Okay, Fairmile Vergers mowing 2024. You find this on pages 21 to 23, a report from our Conservation Park Warden. You can see the mowing regime suggested. Are there any comments about this? Councillor Buckley?
Only comment I would say, we get complaints regularly about around the cemetery, just to make sure that we still keep visibility. I think other than that,
Health and safety is definitely, I think, the primary concern next to the highway, absolutely. Councillor Gelshak.
I think what you were referring to is zone 16 line, and you're right, I should get on. It's the triangle at the bottom of your character. And when you come out cemetery, they just can't stop it. So I will, get on to those people and make sure I have them catching them.
Just make sure the rest of it, we keep it as a rule.
Carl,
Sorry.
could I ask the officer to interject?
Sorry, I was just going to, the triangle at the turning of Assingdon, is that?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so we do have an agreement with, Assingdon Parish Council, I believe, on cutting regime. So we do cut that area as well. It's more the island that runs up the dual carriageway. That's the
bottom bit. which
Oh,
is-
okay, so, sorry.
Yeah,
Is that bit there, yeah. Okay.
But you're welcome to cut it, Carl. Because it would save the hassle of waiting for OCC to do it.
I think that, because
No, I will chase it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a dual carriageway, so we won't be able to
It's
cut
at the
that.
bottom of the.
I do think those pictures, by the way, in Lex's report are actually lovely as well. They kind of draw you away from the words. Councillor Kandai.
Thank you. Just want to say how wonderfully encouraging it is to read that, more than 300 being observed. So it's wonderful to see that this mowing regime for the promotion of more biodiverse habitats is being so successful. And I'm privileged to live down that end of town, and pretty much every day now I walked along the Fairmont Verges, and every day it was a wonderful way to be encouraged and just to see the wildlife. So as one of many residents who enjoy walking down that area, it was wonderful to be part of that. I think my question is around, so we also hear people saying, why the verge is so untidy, and a lot of residents saying, oh, how can we take town pride? Everything looks tidy. And so I just wonder if there's more that can be done to communicate wider what it is that we're doing and why. And that's around, protecting and restoring nature, promoting biodiversity, saying this isn't an untidy place, this is a place where bees are thriving. So just something around keeping the communication, whether that's putting some signs up.
So in the report, it says that signs will be put up, but what
Correct,
also, sorry, I'm sure you want
No,
to
no,
answer the
no,
same
please
thing,
do.
but what parks always do is they mow a strip so that people can
Yes.
see visually,
Yeah,
because you're not going to stop a car to read small print on a sign. And so you very visually see straight away that impact. It is
Yeah.
still managed.
Yes.
Because
yes,
they can
exactly.
see, even if it's just one strip along the side.
Yeah.
But he's been quite specific about the areas that will be left.
Yeah.
The rest of it will be mown, so it will show that it's, upon site that
Sure,
it's
so-
managed, as well as the signage.
I may just ask one more question, which is around knowing your name. So I know it's not specified, and there's mention here about will be cut in March, and I understand that, hard to communicate with us. Are we doing no May?
We will be doing no mow May,
Selected areas.
yeah, on selected areas, plus encourage new areas as well. We haven't come up with the definitive list of everything that we're going to leave for no mow May yet, but that will come shortly, and we will, for the Fair Mile, we're going to stick to the cutting regime, but we will definitely be encouraging new places to leave unmown for no mow May.
Another thing just to add is that Lex will work with Daisy to get communication about this out on social media so that people are informed as well of what's going on,
Yeah.
and can be encouraged to follow themselves. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
do the same thing also. Are there any other, sorry, Councillor Lambert.
No, I was just going to say the policy makes sense. The results speak for themselves and propose acceptance 5.1.
Perfect. Seconded by Councillor, all in favour? That's carried, great stuff. Now move on to item 10, Mill Meadows Henley Canoe Hire. We do actually have Matt available online if anybody has any questions. I know Councillor Hunt has a question in particular about the pontoons. So we'll lead with that while anyone else thinks maybe of any questions they might have. So would you like to ask but is Matt available?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Right, so I have some concerns about this with the style of the pontoon, primarily, and the fact it's intended to be used for embarkation and disembarkation as well from other boats, if I understand correctly. The style of pontoon that appears to have been proposed is made out of floating plastic blocks, kept together with plastic screws. These are used in several areas along the river for temporary events, but are very rarely used as permanent pontoons. They're quite lightweight. They would not deal well with heavy boats, yachts, narrow boats, etc. And they can be quite unstable to stand on. I know this from personal experience because these are the same pontoons that are used at the traditional boat festival for the pontoons for smaller boats, temporary measures. Elderly people can struggle on them, or anyone with any sort of balance problems. And due to their nature, they do go up and down quite a lot as people get on and off. This is perhaps not so much an issue getting in out of canoes, but for boats, this creates a hazard. So I'd like to know if the other pontoon designs have been considered. And also the second part of that, at the moment, I understand, although it's not going to project further than the width of a narrow boat, the pontoon will project further out, which will mean people are getting in and out of boats who perhaps aren't as experienced on boats, they're hiring them, in a navigation stream, and will be more at risk of boats being close to them while they're getting in and out, which, as we know, is inherently dangerous time. So I just want to, what consideration has been given to those points?
Just to add before Matt replies, in this particular area where the canoe hire is, the water is so low that a boat any bigger than Ben's, for example, cannot moor there, unless you fancy a nice stay on the bottom of the river.
But if the pontoon projects further out, it will be deeper.
It could, yeah, a little bit, but it's so shallow there until about a third of the way. Would you say about a third of the way across where the ditch comes out? It's shallow. It's really shallow. So if you've got much of a bigger boat than say Ben, it's going to hit the floor, hit the ground. Yeah. But that's my only point about bigger boats. It's they just, it would be not sensible. Would Matt like to answer the points?
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Good
Is that
evening.
working? Hi, good evening. Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to have a discussion about this. So I'll try and start with the design of the boat, of the pontoon, as that's what was brought up first there. So you're absolutely right, although there are a fair few examples of when the pontoons are used as permanent float egress points or for any other reasons. But the design of this pontoon is only actually going to be used in a temporary fashion. It's not designed to be a permanent fixture in its own right to start with. So this would be installed using at the beginning of our season, which normally begins in April, depending on river conditions and the such, and then would be removed again at the end of the season, which again traditionally is sort of October time. So by its very nature, it's not going to be installed when the river's in spate, like it has been, you know, as we know recently, it's just been discussed, but it will be installed when the river is relatively low compared to what it is at the other times of the year. With regards to the stability that you discussed, so I have quite a large version of one of these pontoons installed on a lake in Marlow that I'm responsible for and operate out of, and we hold an ALA license for that lake, and it's perfectly safe and is used very regularly. The size of the pontoon relative to the amount of weight that is going to be put on it, we've never experienced any form of stability issues as a result. It would be pinned against the side of the riverbank, and it would be, as you rightly say, protruding about, well, it's 1.5 meters is what we're looking at. the egress that we're designed for this pontoon and the use of is not for motorboats. It is for unpowered craft. And that's what was agreed in February 2017 for the installation of this pontoon. And you know, obviously for use for us, as we're you know, we'd be paying for it, but the actual use of the pontoon really would be for unpowered boats rather than powered boats. Does any more things? I don't know what else you want to talk about through that first point.
Thank you for that. That makes perfect sense. However, I think in reality, power boats would end up using it. It's inevitable. Could I ask, to address these concerns, would you consider putting in a pontoon similar to those used by rowing clubs that tend to be a bit more sturdy and stable?
I think we'd have problems installing and then removing. That would change the installation quite dramatically. I think, are you referring to the cubes? Sorry, not the cubes. The rectangles of the plastic rectangles, effectively.
Those sorts of ones, yes. I mean, I'd say that they can't be impossible to get in and out, as I know, for instance, Henley Rowing Club has one that they lend to other events on the Henley Reach, and it goes up and down between the boat tent area of the Royal Regatta and the rowing club. I've used both types. Safer to me.
The one like at Hobbs's, for example, by the petrol, that didn't feel too safe to me at the Dragon Boat thing either, to be honest. But I was on my hands and knees.
But the same.
It was a Dragon Boat painting based ceremony. Yeah, no, it's the same as Hobbs's one.
Sorry, I think I lost a little bit of connection there. Apologies. Sorry, could you say again?
Are there any temporary pontoon structures that are more stable? I think would you consider a more stable option?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So the discussion around stability is not really around the design of the pontoon particularly itself. It doesn't flex in quite the way that I think you imagine it to. When it's pinned up against the side, it only extends 3 blocks out, and that is, I mean, they are inherently very stable. We've been using these for years. There's no real stability issues per se on a 6 meter pontoon, or however long it is. I mean, of course we consider it, but that would change the that would completely change the whole process of getting this installed and then being able to remove it without using additional hardware, because of course we can install these blocks by hand, and we would probably have to use some form of plant machinery to get them in and out in the park otherwise.
I completely understand the need for people to get in and out of the canoes and paddleboards a lot more safely than I think. I don't actually know how you've done it for 8 years, because we've needed to upgrade that riverbank for quite some time, and that is definitely a consideration for this town council. So there is going to be a time in the near future when we're looking at repairing that riverbank all the way along, and so things like this obviously we'll need to reconsider, you know, when we come to that time as well. So it's just
Yeah.
like that future. A few other councillors wanted to speak now. Councillor Dodds.
Could I suggest really as a compromise, a way forward, that this is a trial, or you're going to put it in April? All of the councillors can have a go. We can go out paddleboard.
Sure.
You know, and come back, and if there are concerns, take that from there. Yeah, there was one other thing that I think we talked about earlier. Permission for this and for the building. It was with the town clerk and with the outside staff. And I think, Madam Mayor, that you and I were asked to
Yeah,
be,
I'd quite like if
consulted as well.
Jill and I could be consulted with Carl and Sheridan on, just because, I am really I see the need for storage, I understand the need for storage, I'm really concerned about anything that goes at Mill Meadows and how it looks, so, you know, would like it to be green, I would like it to be in keep, I would like it to be within those kind of things, I have.
Of course.
Carl and Sheridan, but I think
We don't want
just
it
like
to
be
look
involved.
scruffy, basically.
Hmm. Yeah, of course.
On that though, is it possible to put some of the storage behind the river ponds?
That could be an interesting discussion.
What was that? Sorry, I didn't pick that up on the microphone.
Yes, and put the storage behind the river ponds.
If you can't, just putting it behind the River Museum.
Okay. Yeah, we actually did have a brief discussion about this beforehand. The logistics of moving the boat in and out of around through the car park, in and out of the barriers, etc. I don't. Well, it certainly wouldn't make it viable for us anyway.
Councillor Gavchak. Oh, sorry, Councillor Kandai, I mean Councillor Gavchak.
I've had the joy of using a pilot from Mill Meadows, and yes, it was an interesting experience to get in and out. Definitely imaging slide, and we see quite a deep gap or space between where the ground level is and then you go down to the plastic grade thing. But you're also seeing the picture of these posts. So I cannot remember what the bank looks like.
We don't have posts like that
You
there.
don't, so how would, so the posts are not required to attach this pontoon to the side of the bank.
The posts were in there before that pontoon, sure.
The first question. The second question is that you raised it before about riverbank repairs. I'm just wondering, will this harm, or is there anything that can be done to help improve the riverbank repairs?
Using this pontoon, because it means they'll stop using the side of the river to climb in and out and slide the bums along and all that sort of stuff.
So automatically it will help protect it, is what you're saying. And
Well,
and
a
so-
pontoon, not
a
necessarily this
pontoon.
pontoon, but a pontoon,
A
yeah, would
pontoon would-
definitely help some of the wear and tear on that, but yeah.
And the third thing is that this grey plastic, I'm sorry, I just don't, there's something that I really don't like the look of it. I'm not sure if it's with the style of what it is that we have already on the river and here in Morley. But if plastic is the way to go ahead, I just wonder if you could please consider sustainable, recycled plastic, just something that will reduce the carbon footprint.
Okay. Yep. If that's to me, yes.
The council that has declared climate emergency and soon.
Yeah, certainly we could absolutely look at that. I don't know of the background of the production of the equipment off the top of my head, but I can certainly look at that and let you know where we stand with that. No problem.
Okay, could I make a suggestion that there's a recommendation on page 27, 5.1. I would recommend that we go with all of the recommendations, but I do have some amendments in under A, that it would be for a trial basis this summer, and that we would review it to make sure that it works afterwards. That the pontoon, the people aren't pontoon outside of users of Henley Canoe Hire. I just don't think that's something that we need to encourage.
As the pontoon would be alongside the Thames Path, it is very likely that
That
any
people would-
accommodations licensed from the EA would stipulate that it must be available for embarking and disembarking.
It can be available, but we don't have to encourage
We
it.
don't have to encourage it.
So, okay, so it's available anyway, but we're not going to shout about that necessarily to other users. Primarily, we would like it to be for the safer embarking and disembarking from canoes and paddleboards and nothing bigger really, particularly, especially not power boats. No. And the parks manager and the town clerk also be notified as well, myself and the vice chair of the committee, councillor Dodds. Is that seconded first of all? Thank you, councillor Gavashak. As I said, would anyone like to speak on it before we vote? There is one other element actually, which was going from it was so in tune, love it. Is that one of the other suggestions in this is to go from a 1 year lease to 1 year to 3 years. Are we all happy with that, councillor?
I'd say, with the exception of the pontoon and the trial, absolutely happy with 3 years. Makes sense.
Okay, perfect. So as councillor, with the exception.
Sorry, have we looked at the finance?
So yeah, so basically what happens, and I won't go into details.
No, it's
but
fine.
is that we get 10% of the revenue.
Okay.
It's worked out in the previous
No, it's
year.
fine.
This is then authenticated by accountants, and yeah, and then it's adjusted as and when. So sometimes we can owe them a little bit of money. Sometimes they might, and it all balances out at the end of the year. So that's what Becky said. Right. Oh, sorry, councillor Kendall.
Sorry, just, I know we talked about, the use of it.
Yeah.
We all know that people may just want to go stand on it,
Yeah.
even if
My
they're
children
not
probably. Yeah.
kayaking or canoeing. This structure,
Could I?
people standing on it at the same time because they're on.
Same as any other mooring platform in Henley. Yeah.
Exactly, that's my point. Is this okay?
Would you like to answer that, Matt?
I certainly can. So the post that you mentioned previously, we would just simply rope it off, at least as a discouragement for it to be used by the general public outside of our hours of operation. Not to say, as you rightly point out, that it couldn't be used, but that it was a usage that was perhaps discouraged rather than promoted.
There may be an issue there with the EA, where there are, again, and it will probably be stipulation that it has to be disembarking, and therefore it can't be marked as private, and it can't be barriered off or roped off at all. That is likely what the stipulation.
Okay.
That's how it, Councillor Hunt.
In that case, could we potentially review the design after the EA have made any comments? Otherwise, we might be.
Oh, absolutely. It's all subject to the EA. It's all, yeah. Yeah, there is a sign. Yeah. Exactly. Right. So all in favour of the amendments? Thank you. That's carried. Last item on the agenda is the old fire station gallery 100-page report at the end of the agenda. Coming along, trying to destroy my meeting time. So you'll find this starting on page 29. Obviously, it is a great report. Thompson's a great report. He's used to CAF, so that's a compliment as well. It is. Becky's reports are always the best. I love it. Apart from Sheridan's and Cass. Oh, the awkwardness of having 3 officers here. And Carl's. Oh my God. They're all such great reports. I love a report. We have the best reports in the world. Right. Seriously now, we have discussed a lot recently our duty to take care of the buildings and the land that we are custodians of. And the old fire station gallery and the and West Street stores actually are 2 of those buildings that we have a real duty of care for. So we need to consider our options. You can see the report at this stage. What we're saying is, you know, it's expensive to even take the next step. So there needs to take that next step. There needs to be quite a firm directive from this committee, from this council. So, Councillor Buckley.
for the accommodation.
Absolutely, and I'm happy to second that. Would anyone else like to ask any questions? We have got Kath here, she's not here for this item, but I'm sure she'll answer any questions on West Street stores. We've obviously got Becky and Sheridan here as well, so if there are any questions, queries, worries, anything, now's the time to raise them. Councillor Hurd?
Under 3.7, I would think I'd quite like to see any further investigation done, so we know what's going.
3.7 on what page?
Three.
Page,
Page
yes, there we are, okay. You'd quite like to see what, sorry?
The further investigations as mentioned.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yes, quotes for.
Yeah.
I don't like the phrase unanswered questions, given, well, recently, so I, so,
Everything will come back.
well, it's just saying here, the committee has asked if it would like further investigations. I'd
Well,
like to say
yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yes, yeah, that's what, yeah, absolutely, that's the bit. That's the proposal. Well, we've got the proposal seconded, councillor Cabashak.
Yeah, it was really just comment on that. We've got this report, 5.1, as Thomas suggested. Quite often when quotes are sought, building companies go around the buildings and say, oh, you haven't looked at that, you haven't looked at that. So I think the stage is that after the quotes come in, there may well be further comments from that we need to add into the report. So I think we go with 5.1 and we get the quotes and then we have another look at it.
It does, it's there, further report to be brought to this committee, we will definitely decide, I'm sure it will end up on a few committees, value
The-
from the
Sorry,
everyone will
yes,
get a bite.
it is great.
Okay, well, all in favour of that then? Thank you, that was much easier than anticipated.